Hi guys, this video is on how to make a build, specifically how to optimize your support slots and the items that you use. I wanted to make this video for a while since I started making tutorials back in the summer, but I didn't have time for it, and then I thought, well, people probably don't need this anymore, the game's been out for a while. But as I've been recruiting for a DPS for my clan, Seraph, I have noticed, and a lot of clan leaders that I'm friends with have noticed, that people tend to have really good items, but they don't know how to use them or how to build for them. So that's what this video is going to be for. Now I'm going to start off with showing you a couple of different builds. One is my side project assassin build, and the other one is going to be my TP build that I use for the server rankings. It's breaker. So here's my water assassin. It's a side project, so I don't necessarily put all of my resources into it. I'm a breaker main, and I do have 2 Osiris axes for my breaker, so I typically focus on items for that before I do on this. So as you can see, a lot of stuff is underleveled. It's not optimized at all. But I want to use this as an example. So on this particular build, my auto attacks with this Cerulean Blade are about 200,000 unbuffed. My nuke, after I've used my Osiris bow and I have buffed my crit and my magic attack with these Eclipse, which are only level 1, again this is not my main build, after I've buffed and everything, my nuke with this Cerulean is a total of about 10 million. Compare that to my TP build where I've only put things in according to what their TP value is. As you can see, it's almost 300,000 TP higher. The auto damage is the same for this, but my nuking potential is less than half. Instead of a 10 million nuke, I get about a 4 million nuke. And that is for a couple different reasons. One is my element is all over the place. You don't want to see your element all over the place unless maybe you are a tank and you're about to go into a fight that has attacks of multiple elements, like Havoc Demon in Clan Trials, which will attack you with all 4 elements plus light, which is his main element. So if you're a tank and that's the kind of battle you're going into, you may want to stack your stats for multiple elements. But if you're a DPS or if you're a healer, you only want to see a single element. The second reason my nukes are smaller is because my main slot weapons do not contribute to each other, except for the Eclipse Blade, the bow, and the Cerulean. The other 2 weapons do nothing for me. So that's part of the reason why it does a lot less damage. Now I say that because I wanted to give you an example for what I'm about to say, which is that total power means absolutely nothing. I've gotten some applications, my friend has gotten some applications where the person will say, right off the bat, I'm 500,000, 600,000 total power, can I join your clan? Honestly, I do not care about your total power. I could give a rat's behind for how much I care about your total power. I just don't even care. The only thing total power is useful for is a gauge of how far in the game you are and maybe how long you've been playing. And for that reason, we still do have some interest in it, but primarily what I'm looking for when I am asking you to send pictures is I want to see what is in your main slots and what is in your support slots. So I'm going to do my Firebreaker because this is probably the most optimized build I have, and because I'm a breaker main, I'm going to be focusing on what is meta for a breaker, what is the strongest possible build you can have. Now recently they released the Athena weapons. I do not own one. They also released the Berserk series weapons, and I don't own one of that for my breaker either. So what I'm about to give you for my build is not the best possible build you can have, but it is still a very good build, and I do still do quite a bit of damage. So meta for Breaker is going to be a combination of 3 stacking weapons, Athena and Osiris. I don't know anyone yet who has 3 Athena, so probably meta for now is going to be 1 Athena, 2 Osiris, then a Berserk axe, which the Berserk series axe is actually named Garuda, and then a nuking weapon, which is going to be the Mystic Dual Axe Asura for fire. And you can see all of those in the lotto. I do not have any of those new weapons, so as I said, this build is not meta. I would say this is a average build, or rather the most easily obtainable build as Osiris have become more common. So I'm going to use my 2 Osiris axes. I don't have a third, so I'm going to use a Royal, and then I'm going to use an Eclipse because I do not have a Berserk, as soon as I can find it in my inventory. One thing, make sure you're not getting yourself confused on, the Eclipse Axe skill you want that is important for you is called Berserk. The new series of weapons are Berserk series, but the skill on the Garuda Axe is actually called Berserk Rage. And then I want 1 nuking weapon. What I would really like is the mystical axes, as I've already said. If you are like me and you don't have those, your options are going to be either these Argent dual axes, or, and I failed out of the quest because I sat here too long, or the Cerulean axe. Now, the Argent series, unless you have light or dark, is actually really terrible. The stats aren't that great, the damage limit is not that great, and their auto attack takes twice as long. So, and I've compared them. My level 3 skill, Seru, does the same level of nuke as my level 2 Argents, which is about 20 to 24 million. For armor, typically Divine Beast armor is the best armor you can have. Recently, they did give us class-specific armors in the Castle Quest line. So far they've given us Wind Element and Earth Element armors. If I had the armor skill mats to raise this to level 130, I would be using this because it gives Limit Destroy, which is the second skill right here that you see. It's actually labeled Limit Break, but it's more on par with Limit Destroy in terms of the amount it increases your damage by. But because I do not have the mats to raise it right now, it's too much loss in stats, so I'm going to still prefer the Beast Pants. Then I want to use the Fire Divine Head, and I want you to see this skill because it's pretty important for how I'm going to be building my support slots later. So you see the skill right here. Says it increases limit based on fire weapons equipped in your support gear slot. So I want to focus on fire elemental weapons only. Anything else will not increase my damage for this skill. Then I have Divine Beast arms, and then for my feet I actually have a couple different options. Typically when I'm farming something I will actually use Raise boots because of their top skill, and this is on any of the boots, but it's element specific. So for this one, it's Fire War Axe's Fortune, and that increases drop rates. Level 2 is still a pretty negligible increase. Most people at level 2 do not see any kind of difference at all. But I wear it just in case. You know, every little bit helps when you're farming something that has a really tiny drop rate. But for the sake of stats and showing you the build that is likely to give you the optimal amount of damage, I'm going to use the Fire Divine Beast feat. Now, this is what your main slots should look like. You should have weapons that will contribute to each other. And Osiris is only going to give you extra stacks on weapons that match the same element. So if you have a Water Osiris and you're using Dark and Earth element weapons in your build, that's doing absolutely nothing for you. As far as metals go, currently when I solo, I use the energy charger metal, which typically you can only get from Hellfort, which is a ridiculous thing to farm because uh, of the extra mobs and the shield, so you have to have the ancient sword to defeat it. But right now, the Monkey King quest that they've given us for the New Year's event also drops Energy Charger as well as the Metal Marvel Works, which typically you have to have a party and farm Death 13, which is a Fatal Quest mob. So if you are missing some of these red metals, the Monkey quest seems to drop quite a few of them. I recommend you go and farm it. So that's when I solo. When I'm in a party, I'll either carry Marvel Work because I have it maxed so it costs nothing for me. If I had it maxed, I might instead use something like the Angel Medals, but I don't have them maxed. And the first Angel Medal, which is an Iver Mace, always will cost 11 EP anyway, so it's only really practical for clan trials where you have a 12-member party and can easily get retain that amount of EP for your buffs. Otherwise, I typically use Clan Mandra, which you only get if you're in a clan. So this is what I'm carrying around most of the time, actually, is Clan Mandra. Unless I solo something like Trials. Now you'll remember from that hat, it said to use fire equipment if I wanted to increase my damage limit. But generally speaking, when you are building your support stats, you should focus on something that fits your job. That is, whether your job is a physical job or a magical job. Then you should focus on tier. Is that weapon related to your job, or is it related to your job tree? What tier of job is it for? That is, tier 4 equipment like Assassin is better than tier 3 equipment for Samurai in terms of the amount of stats it gives. And then also you want to focus on element and then base stats like physical attack. So the other thing you want is you always want the maximum rarity possible. In this case, the reason is because when you put something in your support stat, it applies a flat percentage of the item stats to your stats. So you don't get all of the stats of an item, you only get a part of them. And the percentage applied is based on its rarity. So a UR weapon will have more of its stats applied than a super rare weapon. So I'm a breaker, so I want to stick with physical type weapons. You also want to try and put as many royals and butterfly weapons in your slots as possible. Those are the weapons that are going to have that sort of sparkle effect on them. That's because they have the enhancement stats support rate plus 12% right there. That percentage is based on your weapon's rarity and level. So a maxed SR weapon, I think, is plus 4%. So you'll get a lot more stats from putting those weapons in your support slots than if you put a regular average weapon in. Trial weapons also have that effect, so there's a trial weapon right there. And here are a couple more royals. These are the Warblade. Imperial is just, well, I guess they fixed it. Before this said, you are Imperial Blaze. But it was just a mistranslation, I think. And I'm out of those, so now I'll just put in regular weapons. The axe and the beast bow are both breaker weapons. Warblade is not typically a breaker weapon. We get 0 stats for it. That I don't have weapon mats for right now, so it's going to stay at level 70. That I ran out of quartz for, so it is 115. And now I'm completely out of breaker related items, so I'm doing physical tank weapons. I do have a tank sub, so a lot of my other weapons are going to be tank weapons. So those are not as optimal, but they're better than if I put something like a scepter or a rod. Similarly, most of your armor supports are going to be Divine Beast. Eventually I would like to have enough duplicates that that's all I have. but I have not had time to farm. Those top two are items I keep for cosmetic purposes, so I'm just going to ignore them. Even the SSR, or rather SR, divine armors that you get for free still have pretty good stats, and they still have the enhancement for increased support rate, so don't throw them away. Keep them and level them up, and they'll still give you some pretty decent stats. Now I'm out of fire stuff, so I do not want to use water, because water is stronger than strong on fire. That is, you equip water to do extra damage to a fire mob. And I don't want to do wind unless maybe I want to increase my hit, but I'm pretty happy with my hit stats, so I'm going to do dark instead, because dark has better physical stats and critical stats. And then I only have so much dark divine armor, so there's some other stuff in there as well. Oh, that's not what I meant to hit. Actually wanted this. Again, if I had the mats for it, these things would all be maxed, but I don't. And then I'm going to do earth for a little bit of extra tinkiness. And then I'm going to do boots, as many boots as I can, because of all the accessories of any type. If you compare a Valkyrie boot to a Valkyrie head to a Valkyrie arm, the boots have the most element. If you're talking about SAM equipment, SAM boots will have more element than samurai arms. And I'm not really hurting in the physical attack department, so what I really want now is element. I want more than 10,000 fire. So I'm only going to be putting boots in. Right now we do not have Desperado, so I do not have tier-related boots, but I'm not too worried about it, because again, my physical stats are fine. What I really want is element. And when it comes to element, Valkyrie gear gives the most element, and then the Lunaflora gear from Assassins gives the second most element. So I've just sorted my fire equipment to give me the things with the most element first, and I'm just plugging them in now. And so that gives me 19,000 physical attack and 11,000 fire. Ultimately, my goal is 20,000 physical attack and 15,000 fire. Pretty close on the physical attack, not quite there on the element yet. My crit stat's pretty good. I've heard guaranteed crit is around 4,000 or 5,000, but I don't really have problems hitting critical hits, so I'm not too worried about that either. Average hit for all of my builds is around 600. I can build higher if I find that I'm missing things a lot. So that is what an optimal build should be. It should be focused on one element. It should be focused on items that give you extra support stats like butterfly weapons and royals. Osiris weapons will also do the same thing if you are crazy lucky and have more than one Osiris. And then also making sure that they actually match the type of job you have. You want a physical weapon in your support slot, not a magical weapon in your support slot if you're a breaker. So I'm actually going to save this, because now that I've gone back through and I've updated some stuff, this set is now better than it was before. So I'm going to save it. And I'm going to stop this video here, and then I'm going to start another one.